Hey everyone, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, a very special guest, Chief of Department of Duxbury, Massachusetts, Rob Reardon. Chief, thank you for joining me this morning, sir.
My honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is a lot of fun. A lot of mutual friends. We were already joking this morning before we hit record about, Brian Nardelli and a mutual friend who has been on the show more than once, and he's just become somebody that I truly enjoy talking with.
The Godfather.
Is that what is that what it is?
Well, that's what I hear. I hear they play that when he comes into the Firehouse, but don't tell anybody. It'll be our secret here on National Fire Radio.
I love that. He's a great guy, and his passion for the fire service is unmatched. I mean, there's a lot of guys that share the same amount of passion, but I say unmatched only because it just exudes out of him. I mean, he is just energetic and excited. And the one thing that I love, and I know this is very much in your lane as well, is working on behalf of your people. And he has certainly been a steward of making that job as good as he can for his people.
Absolutely. That's a great department. It really is. And he's a great guy. I love working with him.
So you said something to me before, which I loved. You said your pedigree is incredible. And we're going to go through some of that because I said to you earlier, I said reading through on your LinkedIn and doing some bio homework on you, right? I do a little bit of homework, but I love the organic conversation and how it all comes out in the interview, if you will. But looking at some of these incredible accolades that you have taken on for yourself, right? You've pursued executive fire officer training from the National Fire Academy, the Naval Postgraduate School. The list goes on, and I want to go through some of that. But it all speaks to your commitment to and passion to not just the fire service, but also to yourself, to push yourself to want to be more, to learn, to make yourself better. And I think there's something to that I admire very much because I've only come into that as of late, that I think it's so important that we push ourselves to be better, to always be a student. It's easy to say, it's hard to do.
Sure.
Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. And David Goggins says it. What's next? Right? So you get to that level, you get to chief, and you've made it, but what's next? What are you going to do? Like, there's got to be more, and that's what I'm always thinking of. And before you go into all this pedigree baloney, this is a kid who grew up in the city. I grew up in Dorchester, who I struggled in school. I barely, I couldn't do the work. I struggled in high school. I went to Emerson College, and they put me in a special program at first to help me, get my grades where they needed to be, and gave me that extra help. So to all those firefighters who were saying, I can't do that, you can. And then when I came here to Duxbury, my last chief, Chief Nord, he was a mentor of mine. He pushed me into that EFO, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I didn't do it alone. I had so many people helping me work on papers. I hadn't done a 60, 70-page paper, but what it did is it put me in that uncomfortable zone, right? It took me right out of that comfort, and it really prepared me for this job. And so I think back to all those things. It wasn't easy, but, and someone back, if you're sitting here watching and saying, I can't do that, you can. Rely on that network, rely on people at your firehouse, your family. And that's what I did. My wife was proofreading papers and helping me like, oh my God, come on. But all those
takes
people
a village.
The firehouse. It does. So it doesn't come easy. So anyone who's like, I can't do that, you can. Use your network.
I want to revisit that, but I want to start just a little bit before this, and I want to get back to those early days in Dorchester. I read that you were a photojournalist, but even before that, right, in the Boston area, right? Dorchester is a neighborhood within Boston, I believe, correct? I just want to make sure.
Correct. Yes.
So, with all of that, like you told me, you've always wanted to be a fireman, period.
That's all I wanted to do. Yeah. To bring it back, we grew up right by the firehouse. My grandparents and my parents, they'd drive by the firehouse, and they said that they couldn't pass the firehouse without stopping. And they'd bring me to this firehouse in Dorchester, and I'd go and check out the trucks. And I remember one of the guys. Now, I could never do this. He took me down the fire pole with me in his arms, and it's I remember that from a very young age. I don't know any guys that could really do that here. those are some really fond memories growing up in the city. That was a busy time for them. So we'd sit at that firehouse and watch those trucks come in and out. You know, my mom, dad, and my grandparents would always take me there. And I was just attracted to it, and it never left me.
I love that part of the conversation because it's those early days, right? So many guys that I talk to that are ate up with this job that just can't get enough of it can reminisce back to their childhood, and there were exact moments in their childhood where they fell in love with the fire service, whether they lived across the street, whether they visited. You tell a story about sliding down the pole with a guy, you know, like those moments solidify your future. And I don't think enough people in the fire service today realize how important a very brief interaction can be for a child. There are people seeking something more. And the fire service has always offered that. And those people that get bitten by this bug typically have an interaction early in life that set them up for this path.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And if I go beyond that, I started to ride the bike, and my mom would let me. We moved to another house, and there was another firehouse probably a mile and a half away. And once I got to the age where she let me ride down there, I was the pain in the ass kid that would show up there, and I'd have a list of questions. Why do you send 2 engines in a truck to this? Why do you do this? I had question after question, but those guys, they tolerated me and embraced it. And then all of a sudden I got invited to a firehouse kitchen table at night. I'm a teenager on a bicycle.
Right.
And then what do they say? Hey kid, you want to jump in? Holy, are you shitting me? Like jump on the truck. And it was done. I was hooked there. They gave me a jacket. I remember sleeping at the firehouse. I remember going to my first car fire. Like the bug was alive. Like they couldn't stop it. And this is all because people took time. And I always try to do that when kids come to the firehouse. I see me in them, and like their parents are bringing them. And we have some great success stories here. I had a couple interns that came to me when they were 12 here, and they asked if I could do an intern program. And I had done birthday parties for them in the past. And they came to the firehouse, and to have 2 12-year-old boys at the firehouse, how's this going to go? It's unbelievable. One went on. He's now a DC fire. He works at DC Fire. Wow. The other one started at FDNY EMS, and I just hired him July 1st of this year. Like,
congratulations. That's awesome.
Reaping the benefits, right? We're investing in them. And it doesn't matter if they go to DC Fire or they go somewhere else, but someone's reaping the benefits of us just investing some time and, you know, just spending a little bit of time and energy with these kids.
Time is what we lack.
Yeah,
you know, when I think about the fire service, I think about my time and how my time is pulled in so many different directions today. And I feel like I'm failing guys in my firehouse because I don't have the time that the mentors had for me when I was growing up in the firehouse. And I feel like I'm failing my guys at times because I don't have time to spend an extra 20 minutes of banter or back and forth or mentorship. And I think that's becoming a real issue in the fire service. It's also having to do with understanding the importance of laying that groundwork for these kids. Like even an interaction in public, taking a second to stop at a lemonade stand or opening the front door and letting that kid come in and look around at the fire truck and talk to the parents, right? Like those are interactions that take work and take time. And I hope that we're not shying away from it. But man, I feel like we're getting away from it a little bit. But then I hear stories like this, and it's exciting, right? You laid the groundwork. You brought these young kids in. You taught them about your department, and now you reap the benefits of that. That's amazing.
It's really, it's incredible. And I think, you know, a lot of times we come up with reasons why to say no, but I try to do the opposite. Like, why can't we say yes? Why can't we try this? And we've done it. We've had a lot of interns, and the benefits are just incredible. And I love what you're saying about time. I've found that when I got into this job, you know, I have a lot less time between meetings and you know, citizens coming in and meeting with, you know, whether it's a select board, finance committee, fiscal. I can give you 100 reasons why I can't give you time. But in the same respect, I try to do my best to make time.
That's right.
And one of the big ones that I try to do is get up there to the firehouse kitchen table. We didn't always have that great firehouse kitchen table, and we do. And actually, those 2 12-year-old interns, they made one for us when they were in high school, and it's gorgeous. Yeah. And firehouse kitchen table is a place that's I call it sacred. It's that place where we can share stories. We can, there's therapy done there. There's mentoring done there. And the list goes on, and there's bonding. And if I can get up there, I can't get up there every day, but I try to get up there a couple times a week. It's important because you can get ahead of issues. You don't see what's going on if you stay in this corner office all day long. If you're not on the apparatus floor and you're checking in with the crews and saying hi and seeing how they're doing, if you don't know their wives and their kids' names, and you don't realize that they just went on a trip last week, you're not making that connection. And I try the best I can to do that. And I think the Firehouse kitchen table is a big one for me. And it's not only from, I'm an early person. I try to get in early. So, whether it's 7 or 8 at the absolute
Sure.
latest, and I leave a little bit early. But if they say, hey, Chief, you want to come in for dinner? Yeah, I'll come back for dinner. They do Sunday morning breakfasts. Some of the shifts, I come in for breakfast off duty. But it's that time to just, we're not chief, you're not the captain. Like, this is just some bonding time.
Do you feel, do you get recharged from it yourself? Like when, you sit down and sometimes, you have a smaller department, right? So, you got what, I think you said six or 7 on, right?
Yep.
Per
We're
shift?
running six a shift. We have, during the day, we have a couple admin that also run. So during the day with the deputy, myself and the 2 admin, we're at 10, but yeah, normal 24/7, 6 on a shift.
Yeah. So with that, right, you are, called upon to do whatever you need to do. I mean, you're still a fireman. You're the chief of department. I mean, you wear many hats, right? But what I'm getting at is you have the opportunity. There's some places where you could come in as the chief of department and the whole tone changes in the room, meaning, the boss is here and, tighten up, and it's not the same lucid conversations and banter back and forth. But like, I can envision there has to be a line drawn, obviously, at somewhere, but what I'm getting at is like the recharge for you. It's one thing to be there and be present to learn about your people, but selfishly, I bet you need that table time too for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. For me, it's like a therapy session, right? To go up there, just relax, and to be there with your crew. It's incredible for me. I can't say enough good things about the Firehouse kitchen table. I've written some stuff about it in the past.
Right.
I post a lot about it because it means a lot to me. It really does. And I think that comes from growing up in the city and eating dinner at so many different firehouses in Boston. And then FDNY, when I rode with Chief John Salka, I rode a lot with him. And just to watch it and go into different firehouses, I wanted that to come here. And it took us a while to get there, but we have it now, and it's the best thing.
Explain that process a little bit to me, because there are so many places that don't have that culture, right? I think we're spoiled in the Northeast where the firehouse culture is rooted in 100 years of tradition, right? So, we have tradition and culture, oozing from the walls in most of our firehouses, where the kitchen does matter and the meal is important. But there's a lot of other parts of this country where they don't have those deep-rooted cultures when it comes to the kitchen table. And so if you didn't have that as strong as you wanted it to be and you were able to create that culture there, what was the process? What did that look like?
So for us, I think back, our fire station was in rough shape when I first started. We had a different cast of characters back then, small kitchen table. And I feel like we didn't really come together. Guys would go out here, someone would bring, but it's different now. When the guys come in, they want to do a shop and they want to talk about what we're going to do. Putting that dinner together, that's part of it too, right? That we're all going to make the lunch and the joking around that goes on, and then just the eating together. And that's so important. And I think it brings people together, and it brings those shifts together and departments together. And I think if you're not doing it, it's something you should look at. And if you want to ever experience it, come on by our firehouse or go by a firehouse near you that's doing it. Because I'll tell you, it's a great time. And many of those meals get interrupted, because some people will say we put all this effort in, and then our busiest hour here in Duxbury is 12 to 1, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. So most of the days lunch gets interrupted, but you know what?
Right.
That's part of it.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think that when you come back and have to reheat, or you come back and eat lunch at 4:00 because, you've been running, there's something special about that too, right? It's kind of the fun of it, or the I don't know, you're all in it together, right? So you're in, if it's misery, you're in misery together. If you're having a good day, you're having a good day together, right? So there's a lot to that. I love it. And I love the fact that you recognize, even as the chief of department, you know, that you haven't removed yourself from that opportunity, which keeps you grounded too, I have to think, right? If you're working on behalf of your people, you need to know those stories and your people.
Yeah. And, you know, there's two schools of thought. Some chiefs say, I can't get too close to my people because I have to discipline, right? And if you go to their weddings and you're having lunch with them all the time, you're a softie, and you can think that, that's fine. But I think there's a mutual understanding that I have a job to do.
That's right.
And when you mess up, I'm going to have to hold you accountable. And just because I had lunch and because I care about you and know about your family doesn't mean that I can't do my job. And I think that we have that mutual respect. Like when it's time to work and there's stuff to be done, then we need to do that.
That's it. And the respect for one another is you don't cross those lines, right? And when those lines are crossed, there has to be some type of response. And so it's not personal, it's business. I mean, that really is how it is.
Yep.
So for you then, where did this, you know, your love for the fire service was rooted early on, and then you come up through the ranks, and 26 years, I think you said total now, 23 in Duxbury. Did you ever, the path to chief is always a colorful story for many, right? And so I'm just curious for you, was that something that you had ambition or aspired to be, or did you enjoy being that backstep firefighter and that company officer before you rose to the rank of chief?
I only wanted to be a fireman. And I say fireman because that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's it. I never wanted to be an officer or any of that. And it's funny, I do a lot of interviews, and you'll ask people, you say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's funny, you'll have the person point and say, I want your job. And it's like, okay. All I wanted to do was to be a fireman. And I really loved it. I loved working with my group. I had a great time, but you know how sometimes you'll have a boss that might not be that great, and that boss might motivate you then to promote. And for me, that's what it was. I had the most incredible group, and we had an officer that, you know,
got it.
He wasn't our guy. And that motivated me to study. That was my motivation. Every time I opened those books was I said, I'm never going to treat people like this. I'm going to treat people with respect and the way I would want to be treated. But I've used a lot of the things that officer did to make sure I never do that. And then things just started to fall in line. Like I loved being a captain. I had a great time. And, you know, the opportunity came to study for deputy, and I did it. And it just kept going and going. And so now I'm in this position.
Did you find your passion for that, though, when you studied for captain, you studied for deputy? Did you start seeing something more within you that you were like, hey, you know what, school wasn't for me years ago, right? I was a troubled kid or not a great student, right? I never wanted to pursue education. But now looking at your pedigree and your background today, there is plenty of executive courses and training there and education that you've taken upon yourself. So during the process, did that push you and motivate you to go further and deeper?
It did. It absolutely did. And part of that is my wife has had a lot of influence on me, and, you know, using that growth mindset. And I didn't have that 20 years ago when I started. But as I've progressed and been more open to learning and meeting people, and I think one of the biggest things of these classes is it's nothing to do with the degrees and all the letters you put after your name. It's those relationships.
Yes.
I have developed relationships around the country that can benefit our department when I need help or anything. And I'm going to use one example. We had a horrific incident that happened a couple years ago. And right after that happened, I got a call from a Texas chief down in Garland, Texas. And he said, I'll send my stress team on a plane right now to help you guys. You just say the word. You let me know. And, like, those are the relationships that you get from these classes. And, you know, hey, do anyone have a policy and procedure on this? Or, hey, has anyone dealt with this? Those are the people you need. And it's not just your locals, you know, whether it's Las Vegas or Texas or California, wherever it is. So that there's so much to these classes more than just the education.
You said growth mindset. Explore that. Go further with that. I want to learn more about that and the push and for you what that means.
So for me, I think you know, when you're that 20-something-year-old, you know everything, right?
Yes.
You know everything. You walk in there and you know, I think back to even my worst leaders or bosses had something to offer. And some of the things that they did now that you're in these positions is like, yep, I didn't walk in their shoes. I didn't realize what they were doing. Now I understand that I'm in this position. So I think what I've learned is the older I get, the less I really know. And all of a sudden there's this drive to learn more. And it's like, wow, there's so much I don't know. And I think about it. I'm turning 52 this year. And I think if I could tell my 20-year-old self, there's so much to learn, and just be open and go to more classes and meet people and don't be judgmental and just listen and learn. And that's one of the things I've really tried to do is listen. Stop with the mouth. Just sit back and listen to people. You can learn so much about them.
There is so much there. I talk about it, my own journey, and how I was the biggest mouth in the room and I knew everything. Right?
Yeah.
And now at 4, that was when I was 24. And now at 48, I know nothing. And I listen more than I talk. Believe it or not, I have a podcast, social media. I put my thoughts and ideas out there all the time. I talk a lot. Believe it or not, I listen more. I listen more now than ever before.
And your listening lets so many others listen and learn by us listening to these podcasts and listening to people from around the country.
I appreciate
it's
that.
Incredible. It really is.
It's a great way to engage, and I think about like furthering education, and it doesn't need to be formal, right? It doesn't need to be an executive fire officer series out of the National Fire Academy. It could be as simple as pick up a book or listen to a podcast, something to stimulate your brain, to push you to want to be better or to learn something new.
Absolutely. When we were on shift, we'd print out articles from the magazines and we'd bring them in and just discuss it, just around the kitchen table. Because we have 2 firehouses, so our other firehouse would come down for dinner, and that would allow us to do some tabletop training. Yeah, you're getting some dinner and start to talk some, whether it's strategies or tactics or whatever it is. But you got to open up conversation.
Well, I think a big part of it today is engagement. Like, we have to engage one another, and we need 1 or 2 guys in the firehouse to be the ones to begin with engagement. We can very easily go down dark holes of zoning out and not being mentally or emotionally prepared because we're zoned out and we're mindlessly scrolling in our phone because there's nothing engaging us at the firehouse. And what I come to find is some of the best firehouses in this country have a level of engagement that it's so hard to even talk about, because they're so dialed in that all they do is talk about each other and the job. Yeah. And there's no room or time for mindless scrolling that allows them to disengage. And so we need 1 or 2 people to constantly engage the crews.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I've seen a change from years ago when you're at the kitchen table and these things, we didn't even have phones, right?
Right.
I remember my last trip to FDNY, and I was at a rescue company, and I was at the table and it was quiet, and every single person had a phone out, and it was different from what I had seen from years prior. And I was honestly surprised. I'm like, it's even happening here at FDNY at a rescue company.
Sure.
The one thing I'll say is, and it's probably because of the food, but our firehouse kitchen table, our lunches and dinners, usually the phones aren't out. It's pretty rare because the talk is going and the shots are fired, and it's a lively table. And I remember we have one guy, he came from another department. He goes, this is a pretty intense kitchen table, but it's fun. My mom, she was coming by. I think it was for September 11th. She was bringing pizzas by. She wanted to have lunch with the guys. I'm like, all right, listen, we gotta tone this down for Mom, okay?
That's good. Yeah. Well, she's providing lunch, so we can turn it off for an hour, right?
Yeah.
No, totally. I love that though, and I mean, the fact that your mom wants to bring lunch and sit at the table and to see and be a part of that, right? I mean, this has consumed you your whole life, right?
It has. Yeah. My wife quite often, honestly, will ask, because my son's the same way. If it's not red in a fire truck or on fire, you don't want to talk about it. Right. I have 2 boys, and 21 and 18. My oldest just graduated from University of New Haven with his paramedicine degree in fire science and just got hired in a neighboring department.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great. He eats and breathes it. But I swear, it's in the genes. Now, my youngest son, I didn't do anything different. He's going his own route. He just got into Stonehill College, and he's going to study computer science, which is great.
Right.
That's his passion.
Yes.
But I didn't do anything different. Like, they grew up in the same house, same parents. I'm a firm believer it's in your genes. And if I can just tell you this quick story.
Please.
My brother and I grew up in different households. He's my half brother. So I didn't know him till I was older. He became a firefighter. Like, what happened there, right? And he rose up to the rank of deputy chief. But again, it's kind of funny, right? Very similar paths, and we didn't grow up in that same household. I really believe there's something in people who are like live and breathe it. It's in your genes. I really believe it.
It's a calling. I think there is something to that, right? But I also think that the fire service requires a certain type of individual. And what's attractive, right, is like, I'll share a story with you. In the volunteer sector, Joe Speranza, who's a chief, and he was one of my original guests on the podcast 7 years ago, was a local volunteer fire chief who has an impeccable reputation, and everybody looks to him as a long-term chief, and he's just been very good for his department and so on. And he talks about recruitment, and he says, we challenged the football team, the high school football team. We challenged them to fire department tasks and drills, and they invite the football team down as a cohesive group to come train with the firemen to show them the physical agility and the mental toughness and preparedness you need to be a firefighter. And I thought about that, and I was like, man, what a great way to recruit alphas. We need strong, athletic people. The fire service, it's tough, but we do need, it's a blue-collar job, and we need hard-hitting people to be members of our departments. And when he talked about going after the football players and athletes, you then think about what the fire service is. It's a team sport.
Absolutely.
And it's understanding. So when you raise your kids, your kid doesn't need to be athletic, but I think every kid should have to play sports for a year or two when they're young. I think it instills a lot of great disciplines and characteristics that are important for people for growth. The team aspect, understanding it's not about you, it's about the collective, right? The highs and lows of winning, all these things, right? That's what we need for the fire service. And so when Joe Speranza was telling me that story about recruiting firefighters from the high school football team for his volunteer fire company, I was like, that is what we need. But that is the individual. Those are the individuals that have something within, right? We can help mold and shape them, but they have to have heart. They have to have an understanding for commitment. They have to have an understanding of dedication. And I think that gets ingrained early on in their upbringing of who they are and the things that they're surrounded by. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's funny. We had a member who started years ago and hadn't played sports at all in the back, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I remember one of the officers saying, he's never played on a team before, and we need to show him what it means to be on a team here. And just like everyone, we have 4 shifts, right? 4 completely different departments. The rivalries here are crazy. But it's what makes it fun, when this shift gets off, I get to hear the crying about that shift. But that's what it's competitive, right? Whether there's a fork left on the counter and guys are crying about that, or something's, the floor's a little dirty or whatever it is. But we have overall, when it comes time to go to work, everybody can work as a cohesive team. And I think that's so important to this whole job.
Competition is good, Chief. I want competition, right? We talk about, elections on the political side. We want competition. In your volunteer firehouses, you want competition for those officer positions. You want people to run against each other because it makes for hopefully the best candidate getting in. In the fire companies, we want our different tours or platoons to compete against one another. It pushes a narrative that makes your department or company better, I think.
I agree. And not only inside, but outside.
Yes.
When we go to mutual aid jobs, we don't want to be outworked. And there's a lot of competition going on. And we went to I'll give you a funny story. We went to a third alarm the other day, neighboring town. Our ladder was in there first. Our engine came in after. So we had a good crew there. I think we had 11 total for our complement. And one of the town that we went to, they needed a 10-foot hook, right? So our guys came over from the ladder, and they had 10-foot hooks, 2 of the guys and the officer. And so the firefighter reached out. He said, "I'll take him." And they're like, "No, you won't."
No
No.
way.
We just need the tools. Like, those are our tools.
Show me where you need. Yeah, show us where you need us.
So, the kid who did that, he actually worked at FDNY EMS. He was my intern, and if you've ever seen John Salk, he tells that story about he was up on the 4th floor of a tenement or whatever it was, and they asked for his tool, and he's like, "I'm not going to be a tool." When he gives it, they throw it out the window. Don't ever give your tool up. So like the competition goes between towns too, in a fun way.
I think it makes you better, right? If we're all vanilla and we're all complacent, then what is pushing us to want to be more or to be better? And ultimately, in a profession that can kill you, in a job that people are calling us when they're in trouble, we have to be the very best we can be. And so we need an environment where winners win, because if we start losing, everybody loses.
Absolutely. And if we can get that competition between shifts, like, how quick we can tag a hydrant, how quick we can get water, things like that between the shifts. Oh, this shift is no good, right? That's what we want. And I agree with you totally.
I love the, I've seen it a bunch, right? Different ways departments do it, but basically, like, on the back of the engine, it says, "If you could read this, you're second due." As cheesy as that is, I fight what you fear, that type of thing, right? It's kind of cheesy. But I love the meaning behind it. That is company pride. That is, we're going to get the box. We're going to get position. We're going to get that line in service. And so when you see things like that, you truly hope that if they speak it, they live it. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Is we want an environment that pushes our people to be the very best they can be. And that takes cojones. That takes work. It takes commitment. It takes dedication. And so if you're going to put that on your engine, if you can read this, you're second due, you got to live up to what that speaks about for your own company. No doubt.
And as you were talking about company pride, one of the things I always wanted to do, again, growing up in the city, everybody's got a company patch, right? Not just Boston, but we have a company patch. So when I became chief, first meeting I had with everybody, I laid out, hey, here's some goals. Here's some things I want to offer. And one of them was like, you want to have shift patches? Let's do it. You want to put them on your jackets? Nice. Let's do it, right? So some of the shifts have done it, right? That's a pride thing. I'm on shift, whatever. If I mention the shift, then I'll be like, "Oh, that's his favorite shift," right? And I always say, just like my kids, my favorite shift is the one that's causing me the least amount of problems right now.
That's right. That's what I say. No doubt.
I have in my office here, we have the shift patches, and they want them on their jackets, and they have them on their hats, and they wear with pride, and I like that. Now, in the past, people have looked at, well, that's not uniform, and everybody needs to have that Duxbury patch, and I'm just not that guy. I really am not. Like, I think that means a lot that you guys came up, you designed a patch, you paid for that patch out of your own money, you made up stickers, and you're proud to be on whatever shift you're on. That means a lot to me.
That's ownership.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, for you as the chief of department, you're allowing your people to have a say. You're allowing your people to have input into what they wear, how they represent themselves, what they look like. That, to me, is how you get ownership and you get that buy-in. And that buy-in is what makes departments good. It's when directives are pushed down on their people, when it's as simple as, a T-shirt and shorts versus long sleeve and pants. Like, there's certain battles, like being a parent, right? There's certain battles that I want to take on, and there's others that I can get away, I can live with, not tackling.
And I'm not looking to push down on somebody that is enthusiastic about this job and wants to do something good, right? I think so many times it's again, jumping to no. Well, why not? How do we say yes when people ask to do these things? Because for the most part, I'm very lucky. I work with an incredible group here, and we are packed with people that want to do the job, that want to come to work, they want to go to fires, and they're enthusiastic. So the last thing I want to do is to push them down and
That's right.
to
stunt their growth.
Bingo. Yep. We're lucky. When we put out job applications, we honestly have people lining up to work here, which is great. And I always say, that's not because of me. It's because of them. right?
Love
They're
it.
recruiting, they're drafting. And I say that we just hired 2 people. And I said to the guys, I said, go out and draft some people, get the best people we can get. We have 2 studs that came in here, which is great. And that's what we want, one after the other. And the neighboring departments are not getting it. So I love it. Keep lining up at the doors to work with this great crew I have.
There's so much here because these are all topics that I talk about in my Bridging the Gap program, and the Nancy Reagan just say no culture that consumes the fire service, right? And I talk about this is your brain on drugs. Any questions? It was that whole just say no back in the '80s. This campaign against crack, right? And just say no. Yeah. But it comes forward to the fire service where we have people that continually say no, which allows them to control the narrative. When you say no, you stop any potential growth or anything new or exciting to happen because you're controlling the narrative. And typically it's done either through laziness or your lack of your own confidence in your own skills and abilities. Yeah. When leaders say yes and challenge their people with a yes, that's what a yes is. You want something? Yes. Now go do it. Bring it back to me. Show me how we do this. Let's implement it if it works for us, but I need you to do the work. A yes means work.
What you just said is important. Put the work back on them.
That's right.
Firefighter X comes up to me and says, this is stupid, chief, blah, blah, blah. And I had that recently. And I said, okay, why don't you just do a little research, figure out what other departments are doing, and we can modify it.
That's right.
Right? I didn't say no. Put the work back on them. And I'm not saying that we can't do it. Just tell me the reason. We need to know the reason why. We had a problem with a hydrant. We don't have cheater bars on our truck. So Saturday, I have the captain texting, hey, I'd like to go down and get some cheater bars. We've had 2 hydrants with problems. And he just went to the harbor. He just did it. He got the parts, what they needed, made some modifications. We're all good. Like you want people to do that stuff. You want it,
100%.
Don't give me a problem. Give me a solution. And I always try to say that. Don't, help me to find the way to make this work.
Do you know how many fire departments, if a captain wanted to put cheater bars, it would become a 6-month process. We'd have to fill out purchase orders. We'd have to see if we can mount it correctly in the truck. Like, the process becomes so cumbersome, and I think that's a big problem for us, right? I want people, and Chief, I say this all the time, and I know you're right there with me, is we want people to take initiative. Yeah. Like, how do you instill initiative into our people? You want cheater bars? Awesome. It's a piece of pipe. Make it happen. Take it back to the workbench. Modify it the way you want it. Mount it on the truck safely. Other than that, giddy up. Let's go.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And
I love that.
I said this when I became chief, that first meeting when I had everybody. I said, this isn't my department. This is your department, right? And I'm just holding this spot. I'm going to be in here for however many years, and hopefully someone in here is going to come in there, right? I want you guys to drive this department forward. And I'm lucky that we have a great bunch of people who are starting to do that. And, whether it's grant writing and ideas and let's move this place forward.
Did you find through your further education, right? So I brought it up. I'm going to read through it because it's impressive, right? So, and I know you don't want to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. The Naval Postgraduate School Executive Leaders Program, the ELP, National Fire Academy Executive Fire Officers, the EFO series, Harvard University National Preparedness Leadership Initiative, Massachusetts Firefighter Academy, Columbia University. I mean, the list goes on and on of hard work and passion that you've put into bettering yourself and your own education, which then comes forward and betters your department and the community you serve. I firmly believe that. When we're talking about simple things like cheater bars and departments that say yes instead of no, are these all things that you found through your foundation of what you liked about the mentors while you were growing up in the fire service, and then all this extra leadership training and executive fire officer type content or education then helps you better and refine those messages? Like, explain how you go from that Backstep kid to going to the Naval Postgraduate School, right? And how where's the connection? Like, how do you take a refined top level executive course in education and then bring it back down to the level of the Backstep firefighter? How do you make that bridge? Like, how do you bridge those two?
So let me back up.
Please.
Go back to growing up in the city. Because I have to credit my family a lot for how I treat people. So before I turned 1, my dad was an alcoholic. And my mom said, you're not going to live with, I can't raise a boy with an alcoholic. So you need to either get sober or hit the road. So we got sober. And him and my grandfather opened a halfway house. So that was in Dorchester. So halfway houses back then were 40 and 50-year-old males. They were down on their luck, alcoholics. It's completely changed nowadays. But my dad would take me there on a regular basis. We'd go up Saturday, and I always remember the way he treated these guys. And, he'd say, hey, Jimmy, I want you to meet my son. It was like I was meeting Michael Jordan. This is a guy who was an alcoholic, right? He never talked about Jimmy's problems, but I watched how he treated him. Jimmy, you got work this week? You need some money? And, he'd bring him over. Yeah, well, if you want to do some odd jobs, I'll hire you to do odd jobs. But I watched the way he treated people. And my grandfather,
beings.
Yeah, and my mother was involved in this, and I watched how people were treated. And I go back to all this. It doesn't matter what you have for degrees and education. If you don't treat people right, it's going to come back on you. And I always try to find ways to do that, to treat people the right way. And that was all just by watching him. And honestly, I never figured that out probably till a couple of years ago. I started to put this together because people are like, how'd you learn this? And I'm like, I don't know. But then I think back to my childhood and going to that halfway house, and these people who were all there because they had a problem, substance abuse problem, but they were honestly like, he treated them like family. And I'll never forget watching his you know how some chiefs can walk in the room and that wasn't him. He ran that halfway house, but he ran in there and shook hands and said hello. And it was just, he cared about them. So I think from watching that, that's what I brought to the Firehouse. Like, I know it's not a halfway house, but these are my men and women, and I'll do anything I can to treat them the right way. And I want to be part of, their lives and make sure that they're going in the right direction. They're doing good things. So I think that you take all that education out of there. Maybe that's refined it and cleaned some things up. But that's where all this leadership comes from watching my family run a halfway house.
I say it all the time. I think, so many people are starving for leadership today. They're starving for more information on how to be the best leader they can be. And that's through further education. It's through podcasts. It's through books. And there's more information out there than ever before. You want to be a leader? We'll show you how, right? That type of thing.
Yeah.
But I am firmly in belief and rooted that the only way you can truly learn how to lead is by doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
No doubt about it. And you're going to make mistakes, right?
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I was
yes.
just going to say, going to make mistakes. I say it every day. I make mistakes every single day. I make bad decisions, but in the end, you're doing the best you can. And when you make a mistake, don't be afraid to say, hey, I screwed up. Be humble, and you'll go a lot further.
That is, if anything, that's the message, right? It's, you can't forget your roots. And when you think back to those, the humility your father had, right? To pick himself up and then to pay it back, pay it forward, pay it back and forward, right? He's giving back to you and your family. He's giving back to these, gentlemen that were down on their luck. They're still human beings. I mean, these are people that had a tough go, and yet he saw the human being within, and not the problems that they're dealing with. And right. To be, I love what you said. I'm trying to wrap my brain around this because I love so much what you said, that you only realized this just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Putting this all together.
Yeah.
And it's very much like my journey is like, as I get older, I always say with maturity comes clarity. Yeah. Right. And as I continually, I think, mature in life, I'm starting to really put together like a clear idea of like where a lot of my thoughts and ideas have come from. And a lot of it is being there and doing it, being in the trenches and being influenced by people that I feel have been nothing but incredible mentors to me. And I look up to my father every single day as the gentleman, the father, the husband that I want to be. He's the guy.
Right.
And I love that.
That's incredible, right?
It is.
I don't think we realize it. And again, this goes back to the older I get, the less I know. But, when you grow up around somebody who abuses people, right? That I believe that sometimes you take those characteristics. So I grew up around somebody who did the opposite and always talked to people in a great way and built relationships, and I just naturally was around him all the time, and I didn't realize it, but he was instilling that on me. And yeah, like you said, I stupidly figured it out a couple of years ago. Like, wow, I've watched my parents take care of people and help people, and so it's a natural.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like, I just got back from vacation, so I was on vacation for this past week down at the beach. Nice tan, grow some facial hair, enjoy life, right? Kind of catch up on some rest a little bit. I spent the week with my 2 youngest daughters and my wife, and we were at the Jersey Shore, and we went out. We go out every night for dinner, and we do it right, because we can, and I'm fortunate and lucky that we can do that, right? But where I'm going with this is that my 2 youngest daughters are 17 and 18 years old, and I watch them as adults now, how they carry themselves, how they conduct themselves, how they can have conversations and firm handshakes and look at people in the eyes and carry on a conversation. And I sit back and I just am so happy that we were able to raise them so that they can be their own persons now. And it's one of those moments, Chief, where as a father, it is, I'm sure with your boys, it's the same, right? It's to watch our children succeed has a lot to do with what we've done for them. And, parenting is the hardest job, I think, in the world, and maintaining those lines and, creating those relationships and then letting them fly, letting them go.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's, my wife and I have, like most parents, you work so hard and all you want to see is your kids do better than you. And to watch my 2 boys, one's graduated from college, one got into the college he wanted. Like that's unbelievable. Like so proud. And you want them to go on and do great things and hopefully help people, because no matter what job you're in, you can help people. You can help people every day. I don't care who you are. If you're in first grade, you can help the boy or girl next to you.
Well, creating an environment where, people are walking around with their heads up and not with their heads down. And that to me is, that is what we need in our firehouses. That is what we need in our communities. That's what we need all over. We need people. We need neighbor looking upon neighbor. We need firefighters checking in on firefighters, right? We need people to lift their heads up and to be engaged with their people. And you're right, man, to give back, right? I mean, to give back to the person standing next to you, to be able to do something for them, I think is so much more important than anything else in this world. Is a little bit of sacrifice goes a very long way when you're helping others.
Related to the Firehouse, you retire today. What are they going to say about you? Are they going to even mention your name again? Right? Because there are people that retire from our jobs here that it's like they leave tomorrow. No one's gonna. The new guy coming is going to be able to do just what they did, right? But are you going to be the person that's going to leave and you left a legacy and they'd be like, hey, Jimmy was unbelievable. Let me tell you, he was the best senior man. Every time we got to a job, this is the stuff he said. He always helped me on the ambulance, and he knew his drugs, and he knew every street. Like, leave something, right? Everybody has so much to give. Let's start giving that to the junior people we have.
So much to that. Well, legacy is everything, right? Legacy is to me, it's everything. Like I'm one of those guys that I do want to see how many people will show up at my funeral. I want to see what impact I've left when all is said and done. I want to know what the impact has been. And, I don't make all the right decisions, but I've come to find that I make more decisions today based upon what I can do for others than what I can do for myself. Yeah. And, I think that's just something that I have found along the way. That's the reward for me. I don't need more zeros in the bank account. I don't need... and this is me. Like, everybody's got their personal drive and desires. But for me, Chief, it's all about legacy. I want my name to mean something. I want my impact to mean something. And if you leave the firehouse and those guys don't talk about you ever again, I don't know. Maybe you had a good career, but I don't think you left any legacy behind. I don't think you pushed or challenged those people that are left behind after you've gone. to want to be bigger and better like you were trying, you know?
And I think sometimes we don't realize the impact we can have on younger people when we just engage a little bit. And I've found that when people have come back and said, I'll never forget when you told me this. And it's like, I don't even remember saying that, but I'm glad that I was able to do that. So take that time with the people on your shift or in your department or people that come to the firehouse and invest in anybody. Because you just don't know what's going on in that person's life, and you can be the change agent.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, 100%. This goes back to what we were talking about. It's kind of full circle in the conversation about the kids coming into the firehouse, those two 12-year-olds, you as a kid coming in, right? Like, you never know the impact you're going to make. And then I want to double down on that and go one step further. Those are just for kids or people that we could, impress upon how great the fire service is. But how about doubling down on our own people and making sure that our own people are okay?
Yeah.
Making sure that you're checking in with your people like you do at the kitchen table, checking in, or just, you see one of the guys is off and you just pull them aside or just have a conversation. That stuff goes such a long way today.
So let me just talk about that quickly, because there's one important thing about this, and that's trust. Trust is so important. We had a horrific incident that happened in this town, and it honestly broke the department down. It destroyed us. So I had a lot of one-on-one conversations in this office that nobody to this day knows about. Nobody. I don't tell a deputy. I don't tell my admin assistant. I don't tell anybody, because they trust me. And what I've done is really worked on that trust, and they know they can come in here for anything and talk to me. And whether it's personal, professional, whatever, as a chief, you need to build trust with your members, ultimate trust, that they know it will never leave this office. And there's a lot of responsibility with that. And that's probably one of the biggest things I can say to other chiefs and other captains and officers is, when your people come to you for help, don't let them walk out that door, and the first thing you do is text one of the guys on the shift and say, "You're not going to believe." No, you got to keep that, and that is really one of so important.
Where do you this is interesting, right? Is as a chief of a department, you maintain that level of trust with your people, right? And you have a lot of people. You're so much of the inner workings of what's going on. I mean, obviously you're involved in personnel issues, all these things, right? There's just a lot of things when you sit in that office that you have to deal with that most people don't know anything about. How do you decompress? I'm always curious about like how career fire chiefs, like, what does that network look like for you? How do you decompress? Where do you go? Like when you need a conversation or just to blow off some steam, right? Like how do you do that?
Great question. We have to have a network ourselves, and it's a network, again, of very trusted people. And I have a very small circle of trusted, not only of people. It doesn't have to be chiefs.
Right.
I think some of the chiefs are important because they understand some of the pressures. But
makes sense.
Whoever you are, you need to have a network out there of people that are not just going to take what you say and spread it. You need people that you can ultimately confide in. And I have a very small group of those people who have helped to guide me, listen to me, direct me. And I know no matter what I say, they wouldn't use that against me. And I do the same for them. So you have to have that network.
So important.
Yeah.
Are these, I'm curious, right? So these have to be people that you've come to know along the way, or mentors of yours, or, chiefs that have had similar hurdles. I think about like my group and how diverse my group is, my core group of people that I've come to trust and rely on and to vent with and so on. They are very different, man. It's a unique group, right?
Yeah, and you have to know who you trust. Listen, I love all of our guys here, but I go outside of here for support. And I'll just give you, like, Brian Nardelli, Chief Nardelli. Sure. He's one of those guys that I can call And then I have another one, Brad Newberry. He's a captain over in Stoughton and runs a business. Like those are people that I can call. And here's the other thing you want. You want to make sure you have people in your life that also share your successes, right?
I love
There's
that.
a lot of people, and we do that in the fire service. You know, you'll come back from a class and you'll talk about it and be like, that guy sucks. He's stupid. What'd you do that for, right? So you want to make sure that, you know, the people you're with, not only will they listen to you, that you can trust them, but they're also going to share in your successes and aren't gonna be like, that's no good. You shouldn't have done that. And those are the people you want to roll with for sure, personal and professionally. That's what I try to do.
I love being challenged. I mean, I surround myself with people today that push me. That, you know, we talk about our successes, but they're like, okay, now what? Like, great. Okay, you have a win on the board. Now what? Like, go. Yeah.
Absolutely. You want to be with people that are pushing forward and not happy with the status quo, like sit in the office and do nothing. No, let's keep going. Go, go, go.
Well, I have to tell you, you know, this conversation has been fantastic. So I want to ask you something that you had said earlier, and I'm going to ask you now. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I don't know. I really don't. I haven't figured that out. I feel like every few months, new things come up and new opportunities. So I don't have that crystal ball.
I got it.
It's too early to figure this out.
Well played.
I'm not a guy who can retire. Like I love working and I enjoy it and I love having a purpose, being part of something bigger than myself. You know, it's just like that team thing, right? You know, it's not just about, you know, you as a quarterback, it's that whole team and you don't succeed. So being part of this organization is great. So I don't know what would be next. I know I couldn't just retire. I'd need to have a purpose. And we'll see how things go, I guess. We'll see what comes down the road. There's
so much to that. Purpose and fulfillment. I mean, those are the two things that drive me today. No doubt.
I'm not that guy on Sunday that's like, oh, it's Monday. Because, you know, there's people in our personal lives that go to work and they hate it. It's like, I can't wait to get to work. I got a whole list of stuff I want to do. And when that happens, that's probably when it's time to retire. You know, there's a lot of people who are unfortunately miserable in their jobs. And most of us in the fire service aren't like that. And it's you know, they're jealous of what we have. Like they don't understand it. They don't get it. You know, and I listen, I'm a volunteer fireman, right? 32 years, right? And I have a career outside of the firehouse too, right? So, you know, I wear many, many hats, right? Own a couple small businesses. I work for a large company. I volunteer my time as much and as often as I can. And I absolutely love being a fireman. It's just my path took me a different route with the family business instead of being a career fireman. And that's the only difference. But I look at like what the fire service has done for all of us. And I put a post up last night, Chief, and it was just a quick, like, random thought of mine from a larger piece of content that I was doing. And I put it up, and I get a tremendous amount of views and likes, but all the comments are negative. I get a couple of positive ones, but there are so many people out there speaking so badly about the fire service today. And it floors me because I'm so torn to understand why they're so angry, or this job or volunteer firehouse has destroyed them to the point that they want to vent on social media about how terrible the institution is. And I'm just like, man, I just don't get it. You know, honest to God, last night I read a post from somebody on LinkedIn, and I read it, and it was very negative. And then I started to look at this history of this person who was supposed to be a leader, and it's just negative after negative after negative. And what are you doing to change things? Like, I don't understand, like, morale. Whose fault is morale? I think it's a little bit of everybody, right? I think it's on the employee, but it's also on the bosses, right? It's a whole thing. So I agree with you. Like, I'm not that person, and I kind of get frustrated when you read some of the negativity. Like, if you put this person and you move them over to another job, they're probably still going to be that negative person, right? You can't
couldn't agree with you more.
You can't change the spots on a leopard, right?
That's right.
It's the same person. You let's go back to the best job in the world. I walked in this morning. I'm coming down the hallway. What's one of the guys say? Chief, what's for lunch today? And I'm like, I don't know, but it better be good. Like that.
Yeah.
That's walking in the door. Like that's what I walk into. I love it. Where I know not every firehouse is like that, but I enjoy working here. I enjoy my crew. And do we have bad days? Yeah. This isn't, Candyland over here, but we have a great time. And I think even when we have tough days, we make the best out of it.
I always say, who wants to be on a losing team? Like nobody, right? No. All the sports I played growing up, right? In high school, college, like I never wanted to be on a losing team. No. I always wanted to be on a winning team with a winning environment, surrounded by people that are winners. Yeah. And I just don't know why you can't have that. And I get so frustrated with the negativity that seems to surround the fire service. And we're always looking, and I think it's because it's easier to pile on the negative than it is to be positive. Positivity takes work.
Yeah.
It takes work. It takes commitment, a dedication to fixing something if it's broken. But it's a hell of a lot easier just to pile on and be negative. And I just, to what you said, to be able to walk in the firehouse or look forward to getting to the firehouse Monday morning because you got work to do and you love your surrounding and love who doesn't want that?
Yeah. I hope that feeling never goes away.
Yeah. Well, I think that feeling comes with the environment that you help create, the environment you help maintain, and the environment you continually grow. And I think with, all the things we talked about today with, leaving a legacy and trust and all these topics that we hit on today, that's what makes for a culture that people want to be a part of, and that's what makes a winning environment.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Chief, I can't thank you enough. The hour goes quick, and this is just the beginning of many conversations I'm sure we're going to have. But I just thank you very much for joining me. I mean, we didn't even get into, like, half the things I had notes on, But it's a fun conversation, always.
Well, I appreciate what you do. This is great for the fire service.
Thank you.
And we got the best job in the world. And all you're doing is promoting it and putting good people out there who can talk about it. And if people aren't getting this in their department, they're getting it from you, which is great.
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope that it resonates with people, and I hope that our message is continually positive, even though there's some negativity to what we talk about. The downside of things. Nothing's perfect, but I want to say this. I'm glad we did this. I had a couple of different guys. Chris Koretsky was the last guy that passed along your name to me as somebody that needed to be on.
He's a great guy.
And so, yeah, for sure. And, there's just – that's what I love. The fire service is full of so many great people.
Right.
And we need to capture those stories because that puts together, a living testament in perpetuity that people can go back to and find the positivity of the people that are actually doing it and falling in love with it continually and furthering their education and making this job better. And we can go down the negativity road, but I don't want to. I love staying positive and talking about how good this job truly is.
Love it. I love it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Chief Rob Reardon, Duxbury, Massachusetts. Thank you, Chief. We're going to get you back on because I'm going to need about 5 more hours with you to keep unpacking a lot of this stuff.
I love it.
Chief, if people want to reach out, because I know you are very well-rounded. We talked a little bit about, the furthering education that you've pushed yourself through. We talked about how the culture there in Duxbury and so on. But I'm sure there's going to be people that are interested in saying hello or asking or picking your brain on some topics. So if you wouldn't mind, where can people find you? How do they reach out to you if they have interest in getting connected with you?
Every platform, it's at Chief Reardon. But the one that I use the most is LinkedIn just because it stays professional. I love LinkedIn because it's just usually it's an exchange of good information, good people on there. And it's not, people talking about going out to their dinner or whatnot. But if you're looking for an email to reach out, it's chiefreardon@gmail.com. That's my personal email. You can reach out anytime. And if I can ever be of assistance or help you out.
Awesome.
Again, thank you for this opportunity. It was great speaking to you. I look forward to doing it again. It was fun.
Yeah, we will. For sure, Chief. Thank you. Stay right here.
Thanks,
I'm going to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. Man, this is my life. I get to do this every day, and I absolutely am grateful for every opportunity and new guest I get to meet and talk with, and Chief Reardon is no exception to that. He just knocked it out of the park today. I want to challenge you with this. I say it at the end of every episode, but I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. Take this job, take this conversation and this job that we talk about, take it back to the Firehouse and talk about it, because when we talk about this job, we're making it better. And I say it every single episode. Talk about this job. It makes the job better. I'll see you at the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.